Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live, and today Sam Marshall is out and he's focusing on how the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital is taking shape here in Parktown, Gauteng. But we don't move away from health matters just yet. The UNAIDS has announced the world has met and exceeded the AIDS targets set out in the Millenium Development Goal number 6, and they're on track to end the AIDS epidemic by 2030 as part of the Sustainable Development Goals which have been put out there. In a report released on Tuesday, UNAIDS also said that the goal of 15 million people on life-saving HIV treatments by 2015 has been met and even exceeded 9 months ahead of schedule. The report also announced that South Africa has turned around its decline in life expectancy within 10 years, rising from 51 years in 2005 to 61 years old by the end of 2014, on the back of a massive increase in access to antiretroviral therapy. President Jacob Zuma says government is pleased with the report, which has proven that South Africa has prioritised the fight against HIV and AIDS. Joining us to discuss this achievement is Dr Aaron Motsoaledi, South Africa's Minister of Health. A very good morning and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Vela, and good morning to the listeners out there.
It's good to be speaking about such a positive thing when it comes to HIV and AIDS, and especially the kind of nod that we got from the UNAIDS report.
Oh yes, it does give us courage and hope. You know, in Melbourne last year, the world declared at the International AIDS Conference that we must bring AIDS to an end by 2030. That seems like a daunting task. But when you see reports like this, it starts showing the world and all of us that it's actually possible, that within the next 15 years, we can stand up and say, indeed, the HIV/AIDS epidemic has come to an end. That sounds like a dream, but it can happen. And you remember in Melbourne, we said we are going to adopt the 1990 strategy to achieve that. Now that for the past 15 years we shows that we can achieve what we had, it is actually indicating to us that 1990 towards 2030 can happen, as the report is stating.
Okay, so we know that there's a lot that we can that we can speak about, and we can pat ourselves on the back, if you like, for what we have achieved according to some of the stats that have come out from this UNAIDS report. However, there's lots more to go. Once you reach the top of a mountain, you see that there's more to crest. What still needs to be done here in South Africa? Oh
yes, a lot. Remember, let's start how did South Africa turn the corner? One of the game-changing things that happened was the launch by President Zuma in 2010 of the 8-City campaign, where we targeted that 15 million people must test and know their status so that they go on treatment. We actually exceeded our target. It was beyond our wildest expectations. At that time, experts were saying because the VCT campaign can only target 2 million people, we can only go to 3 million. They said that is the maximum we can ever reach. But we reached 18 million people in 18 months. And wow. That was, yes, that made it possible for people to go on treatment. That's why today South Africa is running the biggest treatment program in the world. Now, what we need to do is that after that massive achievement, yes, you are right, for the next 15 years, what now? The 1990 is a very big task. It's a daunting task, but we are up to it. It means 90% of the people who are HIV positive must know their status. Sure. And 90% of those who have tested and are positive must be on treatment. And 90% of those who are on treatment must actually be virally suppressed, meaning they'll remain HIV positive, but we should not be able to detect the virus in their blood when we do viral load testing. Once we reach that stage, then we say the AIDS epidemic is over. Now, to reach that, it means what we have now, which is the biggest HIV/AIDS program in the world, must actually double. That's how big the program is going to be.
And in order to do that, what do you need?
Well, in order to do that, we need cooperation from everybody. We need leaders, just like we did with the HCT campaign. You know, the success of the HCT campaign, if I take you back to 2010, the stigma was still very high. People were in hiding. Nobody wanted to know, anybody to know that they've gone for an HIV/AIDS test or that they are on ARVs. But because it was led by leaders, remember, when the president launched it, we said he himself must test in public. And show and lead the way, yes. And that released many people. Then we said all the leaders, provincial premiers must do so, union leaders must do so, church leaders must do so, traditional leaders must do so, municipality mayors must do so. And so everybody got in and got involved. And that's what we need now for the 90-90-90 to take root.
How much is it going to cost? I mean, that's probably the one question that is on everybody's mind. What's going to be the cost?
Fortunately, after we came back from Melbourne, we put together a team of experts, which included health economic experts from the University of Cape Town. We put them together to do sort of case study or what's called an investment case for 90-90-90. They put about 5 different scenarios on the table and costed them and say this one will cost this much, the 90-90-90 scenario will cost this much, if you can't afford it, this other scenario will cost this much. And when you look at all the scenarios, they all 5 of them said, initially you have got to spend more money, but eventually if you follow the 90-90-90, eventually the amount of money spent will actually decline. So the African Union actually invited me to address in Addis Ababa ministers of finance, planning and economic development about the wisdom of the investment case of 90-90-90. So even in the whole African continent, we actually want to adopt that 90-90-90. And we are saying, yes, initially money will have to be spent. Now the choice is here. According to that investment case, if we are not prepared to spend money now, we're going to spend a lot of money forever in future. But the 90-90-90 says initially you'll spend more money, but eventually it will come down. If you don't do that, you in future you'll keep on spending, and won't be able to reach an end. So that's why the case of 90-90-90, in terms of investment terms, is the one that we are definitely going to follow.
One would say that the health departments have really outdone themselves because of the fact that you guys were 9 months ahead of schedule in terms of getting more people life-saving medication. And that is, you know, across the continent. When do you guys hope to achieve 90-90? I know that you need to by 2030, but do you anticipate that you could reach that target before then?
Well, we are tempted, now that we've been successful in this one, we are tempted to say so, but it all depends again on people. Our biggest fear is complacency. When people hear stories like these, success stories, they'll say, oh, so we're making it, so let's sit back and relax. Yeah. That's why in the statement made by the president, he also mentions that complacency should not set in. The next 15 years are going to be crucial. But we are tempted to say we might reach that target before, because take, for instance, only 10 years ago, we had 400,000 people on ARVs in South Africa. Today, by 5 years later, by 2009, the number had more than doubled to 923,000. Today, we are at 3.1 million. And we are believing by the end of 2016, we'll be at 4.6 million. When we reach that, it will be we'll have increased by more than 1,000% since 2004. So we believe in the next 15 years, if a similar thing happens, yes, we'll definitely reach that target of 90-90-90. We are quite confident, but we don't want people to be complacent.
And is that your message now to your department, to avoid complacency? I mean, what are your checks and balances to ensure that no complacency does come into
They must avoid complacency, because the infection rate among young people is still something that is worrying us. It's worrying us a lot. And one of the things we are going to do is to target special program for adolescent and youth. We have reflected and say, over the past 15 years all over the world, we had lots and lots of big programs. But when you look at the youth and adolescents, we found ourselves wanting throughout the whole globe. And we said we are going to concentrate on that. And that's exactly what we are going to do. We need to up our school health program. There are 9 million, 12 million kids at school in South Africa on any one day. Yeah. If we can target them and make sure that we stop them from going the direction which we went, then we'll definitely reach there.
And you need to start changing those habits as people are growing up so they can put in much better habits to the children that they give birth to.
Exactly.
Minister, unfortunately, I'm going to have to stop it there. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for coming into studio and having a chat about the UNAIDS, the report that they released on HIV and AIDS and the targets that the continents have met. Do stay with Morning Live.